Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got frigid air on the way as the polar vortex has disrupted and the Siberian Express unloads into the lower 48 next week with dangerous wind chills and very heavy snow. So we'll break down all the details in this update. So let's take a look at the overall Northern Hemisphere view this morning. You can actually see this setup going forward. And we've been talking about this with this building up here in Greenland and up here into the Aleutian Islands. That creates the blocking, and all the colder air has been locked up here into Canada. But all that's going to be sending southbound as the dam is going to break next week, and the lower 48 has some very cold temperatures to come heading towards Christmas. So let's take a look at the overall temperatures this morning, and we are seeing subtle signs of cold front. I wouldn't say Arctic, but we are seeing subtle signs of below average anomalies starting to filter in. It's 30 below zero up here in Alaska and up here into Canada, but all the colder air in Siberia, it's been 80 below zero in Siberia, folks. That is some serious, dangerous cold stuff. And obviously that's going to modify, but a lot of that will filter south into the lower 48. So let's take a look at the setup, because the last 2 days have been really severe on the tornado front. Here's the setup that we went live for on Tuesday in North Texas around 6 o'clock in the morning for the entire duration of the event. Now the National Weather Service has completed more surveys, and we're talking they counted up to 14 confirmed tornadoes with that what is now considered a tornado outbreak. And they still got 2 more investigations to come today. But overall, you can see this swath of tornadoes that unfolded across the Metroplex during rush hour traffic, and some of those were strong. In fact, 4 of them were EF2 caliber, with the strongest one 135 miles an hour, and all that shifted across to the east yesterday. That unfolded a lot of the tornadoes that took place yesterday across Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Florida. Unfortunately, I did hear of 3 fatalities, but yeah, this event unfortunately is now up to 33 tornado reports, and obviously that will probably climb. So a very active last 2 days on the tornado front. Luckily, things have calmed down as some of that colder air has entrenched in, so we should start to see the severe threat start to wind down. We do have some stronger storms this afternoon into Florida, but I'm not terribly too concerned with any type of outbreak that may unfold into Florida. Just some stronger winds and some larger hail at times. So, but it's been all about the snow to the north, and this is a snowpack that's been pretty elevated the last 3 days. Here's actual snowfall totals over the last 72 hours, and man, South Dakota just got hit hard with over 20 and 30 inches of snow for them. But that's been a blanket across the Dakotas through portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. We also had more snow break out into the Northeast, but there's more to come on the table for further to the north, because we still got the blizzard warning still in effect. We still have the winter storm warnings in effect further off into our north central states. Even into Wisconsin's going to start getting the heavier snows today. And now it's going to be the Northeast where the ice storm, unfortunately, is taking place this morning. In parts of Maryland, I've heard they've had up to a 1/4 inch of ice. That shifts into Pennsylvania with a blanket of ice for them, as a damaging ice storm for them. And then all that transfers to some heavier snows in the afternoon and evening time frame up here in Pennsylvania, getting into upstate New York with those winter storm warnings and watches extending all the way up into Maine. We do have a tornado watch that will going to be expiring soon, and then that should put an end to a lot of the tornado threat for the South. So, but here's the snowfall totals extending through now for this event that goes through the weekend. So this is fresh snow to come across our northern states into Minnesota, across Wisconsin. We are going to get at least the western side of Michigan going to see some snow out of this deal, but the east side will be left out for you. Up further south through the Ohio Valley, I'm not expecting much of anything, just maybe a dusting or 2 you could pick up in our northern sides. But yes, definitely into the Northeast, in the Mid-Atlantic, you're going to be picking up some healthy doses with that winter weather advisories. Where you are under winter weather advisories, I'm expecting 1 to 6 inches of snow. Up here for the winter storm warnings, probably 6 to 12 inches, and then isolated amounts of 18 inches is definitely not out of the question with this snowpack over the next couple of days. But it's all about the cold air heading into next week. So here's some wind chills going into Monday. At the beginning stages of this blast, going to be coming in from Siberia, going into Canada. So these are actual wind chills by the time we get into Monday morning, the 19th time frame. Widespreads 20 and 30 below zero wind chill factors. And that colder air just extends into the lower 48, with Montana checking in at 30 below zero by then, with widespread 20 below feels likes in the Dakotas. And that's just the beginning stages. I mean, look at the Arctic air plunging all the way into the southeast. These are feels like temperatures by Monday morning all the way into the southeast, with 20s and teens showing up in Georgia into the Carolinas. So you're going to be definitely feeling, and that's just the beginning of the colder air that's really going to be plunging southbound. So if we take a look at some of the ensemble guidance, you can definitely see the cold air has really been building well to the north, and that's going to slowly ooze down into the lower 48 and really start to build and amplify, especially as we get into Thursday and Friday of next week. And there are going to be some snow along with it. So as this system comes in, we are going to be seeing some snow break out into our northern states, back into Montana again. More snow going to be breaking out into Wisconsin and Michigan, while we do have a disturbance further south into the deep south with rain. But as we transition into Wednesday, we can definitely see on the 850 millibars, it's about 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. This shows you the intensity of this Arctic blast really starting to come together. This is by Wednesday. This is when the dam, I think, really breaks, because by Thursday and Friday, it comes in with a vengeance. And it has one-way ticket and heading south, and it goes all the way to Mexico. And no one's going to be left out with this cold air for our central and eastern 2/3 of the U.S., while much of the south and the southeast really takes the brunt of this. While we do see signs of the PNA, we have been predominantly colder out here out the west, right? So we are going to be seeing the beginning stages. You're going to start to normalize and neutral, if not start to get a little bit above average by the time we head towards Christmas out here into the west and the Pacific Northwest. And that puts the extreme anomalies all along into the central and eastern 2/3 of the U.S. So by the time we get into Thursday, this is when you really start to see the true effects of this Arctic air that's coming for the United States. So here they're actual temperatures now, not feels like. These are actual temperatures, 30 below zero up here in Western Canada, Central Canada. Those 36 below zero in Montana. We're checking in at widespread 20 below zero, if not colder than that, in the Dakotas, and that filters into Wyoming. Look at the colder air mass plunging south with -10 in Nebraska. These are actual temperatures, folks. -3 in Kansas. The Arctic air continues to plunge single digits now by Thursday morning in Oklahoma City. And we start feeling the effects in North Texas, getting to those freezing temperatures as that Arctic air continues to plunge southward on Thursday. And it's going to bring a lot of wind with it. Look at these wind gusts as that front arrives. So it goes through Kansas in the 50-mile-per-hour wind gust range. It goes through Oklahoma City. We could be looking at 60 and 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. I mean, you're going to feel this front in a big way. The Siberian Express is coming. So by Thursday morning, you're talking temperatures, right? Single digits and wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles an hour in the Oklahoma City area, right? And then this plunges south into Texas, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, and you're going to really feel this. And here's the actual feels like temperatures, wind chills as it gets dangerous, folks. Yes, anytime you get below 35 below zero on the wind chills, you could get frostbite within 10 minutes. This is very dangerous stuff, especially when you're showing 55 below zero up here in Nebraska. I'm sorry, in the Dakotas, and that colder air just plunges. I mean, 36 below in Nebraska, going to 20 below in Kansas, 14 below zero. You got single digits in Oklahoma City. The winds are going to be cranking at 60 to 70 miles an hour. It's going to feel like 14 below zero. This is serious stuff, and it's plunging into Texas. 18 below zero in Amarillo, 4 below zero across the Red River. So you can see the true impacts of this Arctic air really plunging southbound in towards Christmas. So as we head towards the 22nd with that Arctic air plunging south, the data has been hinting we could be looking at a snowpack. We're bringing snow too in portions of Oklahoma, but it really starts cranking in portions of Missouri, getting into Iowa. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice here. Into portions of Illinois with some heavier snows starting to break out as that Arctic air with that 1066 millibar high pressure. That is some serious cold stuff. And then as we go into Friday morning, it just gets colder, guys. I mean, you're talking 46 below zero in South Dakota, 24 below zero wind chill in Missouri. Now we're talking 7 below zero wind chill in Oklahoma City still. So, and then 1. Yes, we're starting to get even negative into North Texas as far as wind chill. And look at the southeast, right? As the PNA starts to normalize and start to neutral, we are going to be seeing more in normal conditions, if not a little bit higher, normal above average conditions. That presses all the colder air with the positive PNA, the negative AO, the negative NAO, the negative EPO. That's prime setup for the central and eastern 2/3 of the U.S. to get the Arctic air mass, and especially for the southeast. So the southeast could really get dangerously cold on the wind chill front into Mississippi, into Alabama, into Georgia. How often do you see below zero wind chills? As far as wind chills, this is dangerous stuff all the way down to the south. 15 in Houston. Yeah. As this continues, we got a heavy snow event starting to break out into Friday. So the Euro goes all in on a low pressure center starting to develop, and very heavy snow into portions of Michigan, through Illinois, through Ohio here, all the way up here into the East Coast as well, with very heavy snow breaking out. And even further south, I would not roll out. Just because you don't see anything now doesn't mean a disturbance can't pop up in the data before this event comes to fruition as this pulls through, because there are indications where the Southern Oscillation Index could be a little bit more active. So just because you don't see anything across the south doesn't mean it's going to happen in the data a couple of days before this gets closer to the event. But the temperatures are the real deal, because, man, you're going to start, this is Christmas Eve. These are actual temperatures, folks, as this Arctic air really plunges southbound. We're talking, 30 below zero into the Dakotas, 11 below in Kansas, 4 degrees still in Oklahoma. You got several days below freezing, and then 15 in Dallas. That's cold. It's 27 in Houston. It's 29 in Laredo. So even though you live in the deep south of Texas, you're not going to miss out on a freeze. And even in Florida, how often do you see 21 degrees in the Florida Panhandle? Or how often do you see 13 and Alabama, 12 in Georgia, right? So this is definitely cold stuff on the way, with 11 below zero in Illinois. And up here in the Northeast, you're still not going to be missing out on this deal, as the colder air will continue, and you'll be under that snow as well, because it really gets cranking. Like I said, the Euro goes all in on a low pressure 963 millibar low pressure. You guys wanted a cold Christmas, you're gonna get it. And a lot of you guys are gonna be seeing a white Christmas, if not that. But heavy snow should blanket the Northeast, with a pretty big snowstorm going to be heading your way. So you get all the snow that's happening this week, but you're not going to be left out next week for Christmas, as we got renewed snows heading your way. And there's the colder temperatures by Christmas Eve. These are high, folks. These are high temperatures. How often do you see a high temperature of 1 below 0 for Christmas Eve in Oklahoma? That's cold, guys. I mean, 17 in Dallas. That's a high. That's a potential high temperature on Christmas Eve. So definitely some serious cold on the way, as this Siberian Express is definitely going to come in with a vengeance. Here's the latest update from the Climate Prediction Center going beyond Christmas. Like I mentioned, the PNA does go neutral to positive. So we are going to be seeing a little bit of a warm up out west. That presses all the colder air into the central and eastern 2/3 of the US, and this is a prime setup. If you want to see winter weather in the south, you want to see winter weather in the southeast, this is typically how you would see it with this type of setup. So we are seeing some indications in the data that we could be looking at a low pressure center trying to form. And hey, we could be looking at a dusting of snow across the southeast, maybe not rolled out. I wouldn't take this verbatim right now, but the only thing that gives me credence on this particular outlook is the sudden drop in the SOI index. So whenever I see this, after we've been through a kind of a more positive range, now that we've gone negative, this is a lagging indicator. So when it goes negative, that typically implies the southern jet stream gets active about 10 to 12 days out. So this is an indication where just because you don't see anything across the south doesn't mean subtle disturbances won't pop up in the several days, leading to this setup that we could be looking at wintry precipitation, because obviously we'll be cold enough, right? You'll be cold enough across the south and the southeast. So I would not rule that out. You are not going to get anything into the south and southeast. I will be fine-tuning this as we get closer to this event, because next week there's going to be a lot of changes in the atmosphere, and I'll be right here to keep you well ahead of the storm. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update while I protect you before and after the storm.